Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rebbe Eliezer Malamed Shlita. Well, here we are back after a Yom Tov hiatus. I hope everyone had an enjoyable and meaningful Chag HaPesach, wherever it is that you may have found yourself celebrating the Chag. But we are back here learning, and we now find ourselves in the period known as the Yoms. Today is Yom HaShoah, Yom HaShoah Ba'Gvura, as it was originally called, in commemoration of the 6 million martyrs who died al Kiddush Hashem in the Shoah. And it is our responsibility and obligation to keep their memories alive and to live for everything that they died for. So we will dedicate our learning in their memory today, but we also continue to daven for the brave Chayalei Tzva Agana Yisrael, for Refuah Shalem La'am Yisrael, and the safe return of all of our hostages. I can't believe that we're still saying that, but we're praying for the return of our hostages, and our learning is dedicated in memory of Seren Daniel Shimon ben Harav Daron Visheli Perez Hashem Yikom Damo. So the next chapter we're talking about Tochacha, as we had been discussing back in mid-April. Asar Tzadikim b'Sodom. Ba'esh Shema Avraham Avinu Makadosh Baruch Hu Kinigzer al Sodom va'Amara Gzeres Churban. Amad v'Hispal Lamanam. So if we go back to early on in the Chumash in Parshas Vayera, when Avraham Avinu heard that there was a decree against Sodom, that Hashem was going to destroy it, so he stood up and he davened on their behalf. V'to'an, Shem yesh b'Sodom garen tov shel tzadikim, shemuchanim lahevek al amadasam, yesh siku shel b'sof ha-tzadikim yisgabru al ha-rishayim v'yachziru es yoshvei ha'ir b'tshuva. Avraham argued that maybe there is a small group of righteous people, and in their merit, that maybe they'll convince all the wicked people to do tshuva, to return from their evil ways. Maybe we can repair what's going on in Sodom without the need to destroy it. But as we know, that once Avraham realized that there weren't even 10 righteous people, he ceased to ask on their behalf. He says, let's look carefully into his words. The pasuk says, Ulai yesh 50 tzadikim betoch ha'ir. Ha'af tispeh v'lo tisel l'makom l'man 50 tzadikim asher b'kirba. Avraham said, maybe there are 50 tzadikim betoch ha'ir, within the city. And then he continues, as Hashem answered, Vayom Hashem imtza b'Sodom 50 tzadikim betoch ha'ir. If I find 50 within, he won't destroy it. And the Ibn Ezra says, V'ta'am betoch ha'ir. Why does it say betoch in the middle of the city? Shehem Yiraim es Hashem b'farhesya. Those who fear God b'farhesya in public. Because then we have a possibility that maybe their sanctity will take over the wickedness. However, if their righteousness is only in private, they're afraid to act righteously in public, then there's no chance that they'll be able to overcome the evil in the community. But as we know that so this is how it fits into our chapter, because it's actually the opposite. Because if they allow this evil to take place around them and they don't protest, so they're actually strengthening this evil midah. Look, we have these so-called righteous people sitting in our midst, and they don't say a word. It must be that what we're doing is okay. Silence seems to be acquiescence. So according to the Ibn Ezra, it's possible that maybe in Sodom there were 10 private tzaddikim who did not partake of any evil. But they were righteous in their own homes, and they never protested, they never said anything about anyone else. He says, look at how many were there and they were silent. And look at all, we have the stories in Sodom of the evil they used to do to young women and terrible things. And they didn't protest these so-called righteous people. And that's why they were destroyed along with the wicked in Sodom. Only Lot was saved because of his closeness to Avraham. Shekasher bo'elav archim hichnisam kefi shalamim Avram Avinu. Because when the guests came, he invited them in because he learned this in the house of Avraham. Vakasher bikshu anshe Sodom la'anosam amad v'hitzilam kefi shalamim Avram Avinu. And when the people gathered and stormed his house, they wanted a piece of these guests, not in a good way. Lot protested, albeit in a very peculiar way when you look at the Pesukim, but still he learned from Avraham that you have to protest. And he had some sort of refusal on his part, but because of this, he was saved. Hosifa Even Ezra, the Even Ezra continues, during the time of the second Beis HaMikdash, or the first Beis HaMikdash rather, in Yerushalayim there were individual tzaddikim who did not protest against the wicked evildoers. And therefore Jerusalem was not saved on their behalf. Pasuk in Yirmiyahu, Perek Hey, Pasuk Aleph, talks about the chutzos Yerushalayim, but also look in their streets if you're going to find someone who is performing justice and faith. They didn't find anybody in the public thoroughfares, in the public areas, in the courtyards, only in their private homes, and that's why Jerusalem was not saved. Brave tzaddikim who are not afraid to stand by their principles and to fight wickedness, they have a tremendous strength, and it creates great merit in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ki behem ein lachshot shehem mivatshim al emes v'atzedek nechol shasam elo lehepech. Kol chayehim kodesh legili hatova eloki ba'olam v'alken kashehem elandim zchus divrehim miskablim. We're not worried about them being weak or not standing idly by their principles. Rather, it's the opposite. Their entire lives reveal goodness and the godliness in this world because they're standing up for what's right and they're speaking out against what is wrong and the tremendous amount of zchus that happens on their behalf. I didn't plan this halacha to fall out this day, but from what's occurred here in the United States, from the time we last learned together in this format until now, I think this message is so unbelievably clear. When we have a responsibility to speak out against wrongdoing, we see what's going on in so many college campuses today, and people who are just spewing vile evil and lies and terrible untruths. And if we sit idly by and we don't speak out against it, if we don't call our lawmakers, if we don't call our university presidents and boards, if we don't write letters to the newspaper, whatever it is that's within your power, then it could be that when we're destroyed, we'll all be destroyed with them because we didn't stand up to what was wrong. We have an obligation to give tochacha, not in the sense of, telling somebody they're doing something wrong, but in the sense of standing up for what is right, and this is not a gray area. There is just pure right and wrong here. So we continue this learning on an important note, on an important day, and when we talk about the Shoah, we think about those who were righteous in the world that stood up and protected us and tried to help us. And we also think of the so many more who just stood silently and let the world destroy our people. But that is not the end of us, nor will it ever be. May their holy neshamas have an aliyah, and we thank you for listening to our learning and coming back with us as we go through the Yoms. Please continue davening for Chalei Tzvah Ganei Yisrael, for Shalom L'Chalam Yisrael, safe return of our hostages, and Le'ili Nishmas, Daniel Shimon, Ben Harav Durham Risheli, Hashem Yakum Damo. Thank you and have a good day.